Installing Windows 98 and getting it to work on this modern day Ryzen processor is such a pain. Many of you have asked me on how to install Windows 98 on VMware with an AMD Ryzen CPU. This guide is for you. First, you will need the Windows 98 CD-ROM, obviously. Second, you will need the Windows 98 boot floppy. And last but not least, you will need the Microsoft CDEX, which stands for the Microsoft CD extension. Now, if you have a physical copy of the Windows 98 CD-ROM, then this tutorial will work as well. If not, don't worry, I'll be providing the links to where you can download them in the video's description. Without further ado, let's start. Alright, you have them downloaded or with you? Fantastic. Now go ahead and open up VMware. For me, I'm running Workstation 16, but an older version will work as well. Now go ahead and click on Create a new virtual machine. By default, it would be on the typical recommended part. You want to click on Custom Advanced and click Next. For the hardware compatibility, you can keep it as is, but if you want an extra stability, I'd recommend Workstation 10.0. Now, go ahead and insert your Windows 98 CD-ROM, or if you have the ISO, browse for the ISO right here. Then, you can give your virtual machine a name if desired. For the CPU part, keep it as is, because Windows 98 can only utilize one CPU and one core. For the memory part, keep it as 256 megabytes. If you want, it can go up to 1 gigabyte. If you try to go over 1 gigabyte of RAM, Windows 98 will complain that you are running an insignificant amount of memory. For the network type, keep it as is, as well as with the I/O controller type. For the disk type, keep it as IDE. Then, you want to create a new virtual disk. For the maximum disk size, I'd recommend keeping it as 8 GB. If you want more, you can increase it here. You'll have the option to either store the virtual disk as a single file or split them to multiple files. I'd recommend keeping it as a single file. By the way, if you want to give your hard disk a name, go ahead. Now, click on Customize Hardware. Under the Processor tab, if you want to, and if your CPU supports it, you can either check both Virtualized Intel and Virtualized CPU Performance counters. Now you want to add a floppy drive. From here, you need to insert your Windows 98 boot floppy under the Browse tab. As some Windows 98 CD-ROM, like the one I have, isn't bootable. Now click on the Display tab. If you are running VMware Workstation 15 or later, you have the option for display scaling. If you have a big monitor like me, select stretch mode and keep aspect ratio stretch. Or if you want, you can click on full stretch, but do keep in mind, full stretch basically stretch it out and make it fatter, so the choice is up to you. Click close and click finish. Now, it may take some time to create your new virtual hard drive. When done, you will need to edit the VMware VMX file. So on the left pane, right click on the virtual machine and click on Open VM Directory. Here you see some files, but we are looking for the VMX file. Now if you have Notepad++, go ahead and select Edit with Notepad++. Otherwise, you can choose Notepad by under Open With and choose another app, then click on Notepad. On the bottom of the VMX file, you will need to add bios.bootdelay equals 2000. BIOS.boot delay is measured in milliseconds, so 2000 is 2 seconds. The reason we need to add BIOS.boot delay is that you will have enough time to access the VMware's escape menu. Otherwise, you'll go flying past the screen and you miss the opportunity to hit escape. Once you added the BIOS.boot delay, save the file, and now you are ready to start the virtual machine. When you power on your virtual machine for the first time, it'll automatically boot from the Windows 98 boot floppy. From here, go to number 2 and press enter. Then we will need to initialize the virtual hard disk that we've created. So go ahead and type in fdisk and press enter. From this screen, press enter 3 times. Now you will need to restart the virtual machine. You can do so by holding down the Ctrl, Alt, and Insert key simultaneously. Then select number 2 and press enter. Now you will need to format the disk. So type in format C:, and then at the end you will need to type in /s. When prompted, press Y and press enter. The reason why we need to put the /s is that it will make the virtual drive bootable with the minimum Windows 98 files. Now, before we install the Microsoft CD extension, we will need to add 2 new files to the hard drive. So go ahead and type in edit c:/config.sys and press enter. When you see this screen, go ahead and hold down the Alt and F keys, then press S. Then hold down Alt F again and then press X to exit. Now we need to do the same thing for autoexec.bat. So type in edit c:/autoexec.bat and press enter. Then do exactly what you have done with config.sys. Now we need to install the Microsoft CD extension. To do this, you will need to go to the VM tab under removable devices. Under floppy, click settings. Then look for the Microsoft CD-EX floppy that you've downloaded and click OK. Then go ahead and type in install and press enter. Then press enter again to install the Microsoft CD-EX. After seeing completely installed, press enter. Now what we want to do is to eject the floppy by going to the VM tab under removable devices, floppy, click on disconnect. And guess what? The hard part is finally complete. Now go ahead and restart the virtual machine, and if you have done the steps correctly, you should see the Windows 98 splash screen. Now you need to create a new directory to copy the Windows 98 cap files. So type in md, then the name of the folder. Then type in D:, and press enter. Now type in copy win98/star.cap and then the path to the folder you've just created. This will copy all of the necessary setup files to your C drive for later use. Then type in setup and press enter. Let Microsoft ScanDisk do its job, and then you should see the Windows 98 setup screen. Go ahead and follow the instructions. Keep the directory as C:/Windows and press next. For the sake of this tutorial, I will keep it as typical, but you can go crazy with this components section. If desired, you can give your computer a name. Then select the country you live in and click next. Now Windows 98 setup will prompt you to make a startup disk, but we already have a startup disk, so press enter and then click cancel. Now sit back and relax as Windows 98 copies its files to your C drive. This will take some time, so please be patient. Now, when you see the restart computer part, go ahead and click on restart now. Then immediately hold down the left control key. Now when you see the Microsoft Windows 98 startup menu, we will need to boot to safe mode, so go to number 3 and press enter. Now once you see the cannot detect devices in safe mode, click OK. Now you should see the Windows is running in safe mode dialog box, so click OK. Now right click on my computer and click on properties. Then go to performance and under the advanced settings, click file system. Then click on the troubleshooting tab, and then you need to check to disable all 32-bit protected mode disk drivers and click OK and click close. Then restart your computer. Enabling that option will make Windows 98 behave well on VMware with an AMD Ryzen CPU. Then, when you see the user information, fill out the information, read the license agreement, accept the license agreement, and then enter your totally legitimate product key and then click next. Then click finish. Now sit back and relax as Windows 98 installs the drivers. word of caution, if your virtual machine crashes at this point, or if you get an illegal operation error, go ahead and restart your virtual machine. Otherwise, continue finishing up setting up Windows. Once your virtual machine restarts, you should see the enter network password. Go ahead and give your user account a password if desired, or press enter to continue. Now, if you get the new hardware found, go ahead and let it finish, and then you should see the Windows 98 desktop. Alright, we're finally booted into the Windows 98 desktop. But we're not done yet. What we're gonna do now is to install the VMware tools. But because we installed the Microsoft CD extension, you have to eject the Windows 98 CD. If you don't do this and you insert the VMware tools, your virtual machine will crash. Don't ask how I know that. Once you eject the Windows 98 CD, then it is now safe to insert your VMware tools. At this part, you may get an error saying you cannot find VMware tools setup. So go ahead and click OK, right click on the CD and click open. Then scroll down until you find VMware_T. Then you can install VMware tools. Do keep in mind, you will run into some illegal operations with Explorer.exe or some other programs. Once you have VMware tools installed and you rebooted your virtual machine, you can now change your screen resolution. Now we're going to install the sound driver for Windows 98. And don't worry, I've also included the setup file in the video description. During the new hardware found screen, you might get a please insert your Windows 98 CD-ROM into the drive. But now what we want to do is open up Regedit by holding down the Windows key and R simultaneously. Then go to HKey Local Machine, Software, Microsoft, Windows, Current Version, and then Setup. Then go ahead and find Source_dir. Double click on it and change the text to the directory of which you've copied the Windows 98 files back in DOS. Once you're done, close Regedit and click OK on the Insert Windows 98 CD. Then, go ahead and type in the path of which you've copied the Windows 98 files. The reason why we did that is to minimize the please insert this Windows 98 CD-ROM into the drive. Don't forget to let Setup install the GamePort joystick driver. Now, Setup will prompt you to restart your computer, but you don't need to because if you click on the volume icon on the bottom right on your taskbar, you'll be able to hear the Windows 98 ding sound effect. And there you have it, you have a semi-working and semi-stable version of Windows 98 on VMware with an AMD Ryzen CPU. Remember, you will run into some problems like Explorer crashing from time to time, or some visual glitches here and there. As long as you have the disable all due to bit protected mode disk drivers, Windows 98 on VMware should be okay for now. Now, if you really care about stability on virtualizing Windows 98, I'd recommend checking out PCEM or 86box for true proper emulation of 90s hardware to early 2000s. But if you can tolerate bugs and glitches, this is how you install Windows 98 on VMware. By the way, this method will also work on VirtualBox as well. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop a comment below and I'll do my best to answer them. I hope this video helped you on installing Windows 98 on VMware with the Ryzen CPU. And I look forward to answering your comments below. Now get out there and start installing Windows 98 on VMware. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.